Hello and welcome back. My name is Jan Robert from Key Leadership Institute, and today we're going into the next value. And that value will be the value of confrontation. Yes, you heard it right. There is value in confrontation as long as you do it right. See, we should not shirk away from any of this. But sometimes we have confrontation and then we need to resolve a conflict we've already talked about because we don't show restraint and we need to ask for forgiveness. See, all these values come together in this people-centric group of values. There is, as I said, there is 48, 49 of them, and we take you through each and every one of them. Just an excerpt of them, of course, because it's a two-pager and we normally do one value a week in an amazing process. But the value of confrontation today. See, conflicts become confrontations when we say unkind things, raise our voices, or become aggressive with our expressions. It often produces one of two instincts with any person: fight or flight. Now, you've heard of both of them as well, and you've probably done one or the two, or both, at some point in your lives already. And we can avoid a lot of this if we learn a little bit more about confrontation and see the real value in a proper confrontation. See, I've talked about resolving conflict in one of the previous values, and that's also a great value when we know how to do that right. But if of course this goes a step further, when it becomes total confrontation and people not only verbally but they start punching each other's lights out, it doesn't help and serve anybody. It's not like when we were young kids and we have a fight amongst our best friends and afterwards we walk away with our arms around each other's shoulders and it's all done. No, this is a bit more serious as well. See, if we become defensive and argumentative when confronted, it may be because we do not want to be proven wrong. Now, that is very interesting because I always, when I talk about discussions and arguments, and I ask people, do you know what the difference is? And many people, they can say, well, in the one they just talk calmly, and the other one they start shouting at each other and shouting over each other, all the above. But the real difference between a discussion and an argument is motive. Yes, you heard that right. And that actually that's why this sentence talks into that, because if your motive is to be right regardless, you're going to have an argument. Because if the other one also has the same motive and they've got a different opinion, you know what's going to happen. Physically, but verbally first, and sometimes it leads to physical violence too, unfortunately. But if you, again, Stephen Covey comes in a lot of these people-centric one, and to try to understand before being understood. And that is very important as well, because if you try to have a conversation that you try to understand, that doesn't mean you have to agree with the other person, but at least try to understand where they're coming from their perceptions, their belief, and their upbringing. Then we can have a much better conversation without raising our voices, as I said already, without trying to shout at each other and prove that what we say is right. No, what we say is right to us. See, I speak quite often as well about my truths. And it's not to prove that I'm right. No, it's to give another perspective. Whether you agree with me, that's not a problem. And that's not the idea. See, I don't want to change you because, as I said often enough, I cannot change myself. I've got a hard enough job changing myself. So why should I want to change you? But if I can give you another perspective where you might at least get a more informed, make a more informed decision, then I've done my job. Whatever that decision is, that is irrelevant. And especially during these times, I've been called names. And again, I stay respectful because I don't feel that I need to call you names back. Or people get angry because sometimes they feel that they're challenged on their way of thinking. And that's difficult to accept sometimes, that we, including myself, that we are wrong. And for me too, sometimes that's difficult to accept. But we need to accept it all the same. So that is the difference. Now, a feeling that we know better or can defend our position may cause us to open our mouths and freely give our opinions without further consideration. See, I've talked about the value of restraint, and I keep telling you, all these values are intertwined. And when we open our mouth, we might need to go to the value of forgiveness and ask for forgiveness afterwards. But when that's difficult, sometimes because we've got so far in this conflict and this confrontation, which is the next step, that we can't do that. And we find out that there's families that haven't talked to each other, people in families that haven't talked to each other for years about something small that became much bigger and bigger. Because when we start thinking about it, how right we really are and how wrong they were, these values are beautiful, because even in the value of forgiveness, I've seen people and families coming together again, because people realized that if they're not part of the solution, they are part of the problem. So to create a solution, they go and ask for forgiveness, even though it wasn't their fault. But we often need to forgive ourselves first. But if we ask for forgiveness, it's amazing what can happen in a few minutes. And it's positively impacted many, many lives. And there's many stories I can tell you, but we run testimonials in the series as well, that you can see what it has done to people's lives. But avoiding confrontation is not the answer either. If we shut down and on others often enough, they probably will stop bringing anything to our attention, and the relationship will dissolve. So if we don't, in leadership, that's quite often, we need to resolve conflict, and we need to have some confrontation with people. And if we don't do that, if we just sit quietly, and first of all, we're not leading, and people, they think, well, there's no point in going to them. So the answer is dealing with confrontation well. Starts with managing and controlling what we say and how we say it. Not raising the voices, be gentle, but also what we say. There's very different ways we can approach this, and that is where the key is in the value of confrontation. See, the way we use to handle our words may determine war or peace, friends or enemies, and failure or success in life. That's how important it is, what we say and how we say it. See, confrontation exists and are really, they are a reality in each and every one of our lives. But try to remember that disagreement does not equal rejection. See, that's the thing. The best way to win is to forget to keep score. And we're not rejected when we have a confrontation or a disagreement. You just have. These things just are. And just because you think they won this time, you're doing your best to win the next time. It's not about winning or losing or about keeping score. It's about learning to discuss things in a manner that everybody benefits from. That's what real value is in confrontation. So as you know, I'm also, every time I've got 2 benefits, 2 characteristics, and 2 steps to follow to get better at how to confront people correctly. But first, the benefits of people who confront people correctly. And one of the benefits will be that you will build others' trust in you. Now that's important. Responding in a calm and peaceful way lets people know you are confident in your information and sure about your position. Now, remember, that's a benefit. That doesn't mean that you have to push your position all the time, but at least you're confident in what you've got to say. He who raises his voice in any discussion loses. It's as simple as that. That's another thing to think about. But the second benefit is that you will increase your value in others' eyes. Handling confrontation properly will keep us humble and increases others' respect for us. I've talked about the value of respect as well, you see. Some characteristics of a person who does confront people correctly. Says these people respond peacefully and refrain from escalating emotions even when other persons start to get upset. And I can personally speak, I already spoke into that, but I know there's no point in joining that shouting much. If you keep calm, then you can't say how other people will react or respond, but you need to respond. That means you think first before saying something, and then keep calm, restrain yourself a little bit, and actually just take it easy. And if they feel that they need to keep shouting, you don't have to stay and listen. That doesn't mean that you lose. You just don't accept the way they treat you. That shows you respecting yourself first. I've talked about that as well. And the second characteristics is that these people do not fear changing their opinion once they have listened to the other party's perspective and reasoning. So, when you listen to others, if you know you're wrong, you don't have to fear that you say, okay, I'm wrong. Sorry about it. I've learned something today. Thank you very much. No confrontation. Even though it might start at somebody is tight and tense, you take it out by staying calm. And then when if and when they're right, accept it. And sometimes we can't come to an agreement, so we don't have to. See, they are most interested in what is right rather than just being right. Now, that's a big difference. And then, of course, 2 steps that you can already follow to become in how to confront people correctly. So to become better at this. I've talked to you a little bit about it. I've talked to you some benefits of a characteristic of somebody who confronts people correctly. Now, if you want to confront people in a better manner that is acceptable to both, then these are 2 of the steps. First of all, do not get sucked into arguments. And as I just mentioned, if somebody wants to argue, don't do that. If someone wants to argue with us and we respond with a smile and soft answer, it will be difficult for the other person to perpetuate the argument. And as I said, if they still continue because they just have blinkers on and they don't want to know, then you can always say, thank you, and walk away. The second one is finish with a peaceful close. See, acknowledging that you do not have to agree on everything, this makes room for a difference of opinions. So that's, again, what I just said already, be peaceful at the end. You know, when you've had a discussion and it gets a little bit up, you keep calm, you be respectful, you smile at people. If they don't, say, listen, I know you've got a point, you want to prove it, I don't agree with it, so let's just leave it there, and you can walk away. That's the best way to do. But it is better if you both calm down and have a discussion. But these are 2 points that you can implement right now. So my question is, again, every time, have a pen and paper. What action will you take to implement and get better at resolving conflict right now? Maybe you know somebody you've got a conflict with. Maybe you have situations that you need to resolve and confront people. So then that confrontation might come today or tomorrow. But when it does, what will you do to actually get better at resolving this peacefully and correctly? Write a single step down, right? When you're going to do it, who you're going to do it with, and why and what you're going to do, and then follow through, because action is the most powerful weapon we've got in becoming better ourselves. When you do that, I will see you in another value very shortly. So take action, and I wish you success in your next confrontation.